This is the Shure MV7, and this is sort of the little brother to the legendary Shure SM7B, which we have here, and we're going to compare it with this MV7 here in just a minute, or maybe even the newer Shure SM7DB. Now, the MV7 is what's called a hybrid microphone, meaning that you can plug it in with either USB or XLR. So if you already have an audio interface, you want to use it in your studio, you can do that. Right now, we're using it over USB. And whenever you use it over USB, you can use the built-in DSP, or think of that as the built-in audio effects. So again, you have to use it with USB. If you're using it with XLR, you can't use these built-in effects, which, the built-in effects are great for live streaming, for gaming, podcasting, Zoom calls, things like that. You can put things like plugins in something like OBS to get a better vocal sound. Or of course, if you're using XLR, you can use whatever plugins you want in your DAW. But again, as long as we're using it with USB, we can use some of these built-in effects here. So over here in your ShurePlus MOTIV app up here, we can change the name of this microphone if we want. We can lock everything down so nothing can be changed. You'll also see a lock icon on the microphone itself. So we have the option between auto level or manual. Let's look at auto level right now. We can create presets, save presets right there. You can mute the mic. So if I do that, you're not going to hear anything at all, right? You have a monitor mix. So think of this as how much of yourself you're hearing in your headphones versus how much playback from the computer you're hearing. Okay, that's assuming you have this microphone set up as the audio interface for your computer, which you don't have to set it up like that if you don't want to. Then we have here in the auto level, we can start messing with the gain and the built-in effects. So right now I have this set to near, and that's going to change, the overall gain. There's also some other stuff going on there, but if we go to far, now it's going to really up the gain. I personally like leaving it on far if I can go a little further out. And, if you're going to have this further away from yourself, you might want to leave it on far. I usually leave it on far. I use this microphone a lot for gaming, so I generally actually use the manual, but you can leave it on far. There's a lot of clipping protection and auto leveling whenever you set this up with the automatic or the auto level. We'll leave it on far for right now because I think it just sounds better overall. Then we have tone. So we're essentially messing with the EQ and stuff like that. So right now it's on natural. Let's go to dark. All right, this is the Shure MV7 on dark. Do you like this sound? Do you not like this sound? That's up to you. Let's move over to bright. And now we're over on the bright setting. So this is gonna, of course, roll off some low end, boost the overall presence. Again, whatever sound you like, you can choose it real quickly, real easily here within the auto level setting. Let's go to natural. All right. We also have LED behavior for the LEDs that are on the mic. We can have our live meters or turn that off, up to you. And you also have a night mode where it basically dims those LEDs on the mic itself. Now let's move over to the manual side. And over here, same thing. You can save your own presets, manage your presets right there. Same thing, mute the mic. And now we have over here in the manual, we have complete control over the gain. Again, when it's plugged in with USB. Obviously, if I connect this microphone with XLR to my audio interface, I can set the gain to whatever I want. But I can take this way down. So of course, when you're probably barely hearing me right now, bring it up, 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 bring it up. There we go. Around 36 is really all we can get right there. Same thing for your monitor mix. And then we can choose our different EQ shapes. Now, if you know anything about the SM7B, these EQ shapes are the same thing we see on the back of the actual SM7B. So we have flat. We can do a roll off of that low end, which is called a high pass. So that's going to get rid of some of that low end you might hear. Let's go back to just flat there. So low end, low end, low end, low end. And then we have a presence boost, which again boosts the presence. And we're not cutting off any low end now. We're just boosting the presence. And over here, we can do a high pass, which is a low cut, and also boost the presence. So if you're gaming, you probably want to choose either the boost presence or the high pass and boost presence. I think we'll just leave this on flat right now. We also have a limiter, which we can turn on, so if things get very loud, it won't clip. Right. Same thing happens when you're on the auto level. It will just turn that on automatically. So we can leave that limiter on. And then we have a compressor. So we can choose our compression level. versus over here on auto level, where you're basically choosing your compression level based on what you choose here. Back over here, make sure our limiter is on, and we'll go to some light compression. So if you have a pretty even level of speaking, light compression is good. If there's going to be more changes, more soft sounds, more, then one day I walked over here and then it was like, whoa! Okay, so that compression is going to keep the differences in that lower level speech and that louder speech a little more even. Once you get over to heavy, it starts to kind of impact the overall sound of the mic. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. But generally today, people don't like heavy compression. In the early 2000s, people loved heavy compression on their vocal mics. But today, I would really keep this somewhere around light to medium for your overall compression. I think it just is going to sound better. Then, of course, you can choose your live meters and night mode on this page as well. And once you have something you like, if you're going to use it over and over, you can always, again, lock that down with your lock here. You can also lock it down directly on the mic. All right, so that is what the MV7 sounds like whenever you're using it over USB and using the built-in DSP effects. I do wish they had a built-in de-esser, but they don't. Of course, if you're using something like OBS, you can always add whatever audio effect you want, including a de-esser, directly into your mic channel. So right now, let's go over more of the features of this microphone, and then we'll get to comparing it with the SM7B. All right, so we'll quickly unbox the microphone just so you can see what's included in the box. You can see there are two different cables, and these are very long cables. There's a Type A cable and a Type C cable, so you can plug it into whatever port you have free on your computer. As far as the body style of this microphone goes, it's very reminiscent of the Shure SM7B. It has a metal yoke. It's easy to adjust and get just the position that you want. It's really one thing that has made the SM7B stand the test of time is it's just so easy to get into position for whatever you happen to be doing. You can control the Shure MV7 from the microphone itself, so you can adjust things like the gain or your headphone volume. You have buttons for that. You can just slide on this little touch area right here. Pretty simple to adjust. You can also quickly mute the microphone, which is great for gaming, podcasting, stuff like that. If you're playing a game and you're like, I want to concentrate on the game, you don't have to worry about clicking buttons in OBS. You can just... Obviously, you couldn't hear me there, but it's really quick to just hit that little touchpad button there and quickly mute your microphone. All right, so now I'm going to connect the Shure MV7 with an XLR cable into the audio interface, and we'll compare it with the Shure SM7B. But one thing you should know if you're not up to speed on the SM7B is the SM7B is a notoriously deaf microphone, which means it takes a ton of gain to get any level out of it. So the Shure SM7B will be run into a cloud lifter and then into the audio interface. Now, if you're going to buy a Shure SM7B, after this test, if you decide that the SM7B just sounds better, I would highly suggest that you buy the SM7DB over the SM7B, because the SM7DB has the cloud lifter built in. So you're not going to have to purchase another thing. You're not going to have to use two cables. It's all built in to the one microphone. Overall, they're going to sound exactly the same, the DB and the standard SM7B, but it's going to be a little bit easier to use for the vast majority of people. All right, let's head into the DAW and test out the MV7 versus the SM7B. All right, so here we are with the Shure MV7. We are plugged directly into the audio interface now. There are no effects going on at all, so we'll try that in a minute. And we'll also test it up against the Shure SM7B. But what you got to do right now is just listen to the sound of the voice. Do you like the sound? Do you not? That's up to you. Listen to the top end, listen to the low end. So I'm currently about, say, 3-4 inches away from this. I'll move way back here. So now I'm about a foot away from the Shure MV7. Of course, you can always boost the gain on your audio interface if you're going to be further away. But then I'll come in close and we'll test out that proximity effect. So here we are, nice and close, about an inch away or so from this microphone. Check out that low end, that proximity effect. All right, moving back out here to about 5 inches away or so of the Shure MV7, completely raw, no effects, nothing, just the Shure MV7. And here we are with the legendary Shure SM7B, completely raw. Of course, being that this microphone needs a ton of gain, at least 60 dB, we are also plugged into a cloud lifter, which of course is why I always recommend people purchase the newer Shure SM7DB. But right now what you're listening for is the overall sound of this microphone. Listen to the top end, listen to the low end and the mid-range. Does it sound any better than the Shure MV7? Well, that's going to be for you to decide. Also realize that the Shure SM7B does have switches on the back if you want to roll off some of that low end, if you want to boost the presence, just like we can do whenever we're using the MV7 with USB. So right now I'm somewhere around, say, about 4 inches away from the SM7B, which is a pretty normal distance. If I go back a little bit further, of course, I could always boost the gain on my audio interface, being about a foot away right now, but just get a sense of what that sounds like. Then I'll come in very, very close and test out that proximity effect of the Shure SM7B, the legendary Shure SM7B. Turn your radio dials right now, okay? Coming back out to a normal distance of somewhere around, say, 4 to 5 inches, maybe 3 inches if you want, and listen to the sound of the legendary Shure SM7B without any effects, no plugins, no EQ, no compression, just completely raw. And of course, remember, generally you have to use a cloud lifter with this microphone. So once again, this is the Shure SM7B completely raw. All right, and we are back to the Shure MV7. Currently, we don't have any plugins or anything going on, so let's turn on some plugins and effects right now. Okay, so now we should have a much more professional sound with the Shure MV7. We have some EQ going on, some compression going on, de-essing, a gate, not overdoing it on the effects, not overdoing it on the compression, just, something to make this sound a little bit more professional, smooth everything out, even everything out, and give generally a much more professional sound. So how does this sound compared to the raw sound? How does this sound compared to what you heard earlier in the video when we were using the built-in DSP effects over that USB? Well, that is for you to decide. Once again, this is the Shure MV7 plugged into our audio interface, and we are using plugins. So listen to the sound of the voice, listen to the top end, listen to the bottom end. Do you like this sound? Well, that is for you to decide. And we are back with the legendary Shure SM7B, but this time with post-processing turned on, or with plugins turned on. So we have the same exact plugins that we used on the Shure MV7 sample that you just heard. So of course we have some EQ, a little bit of compression, some de-essing in there, some gate in there, all the stuff that you would normally use for any sort of professional vocal sound. So does this sound any better to you than the MV7? Does spending the extra $200 or $300 make sense to you to get the Shure SM7B? Well, again, that's going to be up to you and the sound that you prefer. Once we have plugins involved and we're able to shape things with that EQ and compression, is the sound that much better with the SM7B versus the MV7, or versus the MV7 that you heard at the beginning, where we were using those integrated DSP effects with the MV7? Of course, we don't have integrated effects with our SM7B, although we do have some switches on the back to roll off low end or, boost the presence, but not quite the same as the MV7. But once again, listen to the sound of the voice of the Shure SM7B with post-processing turned on. Do you like this sound? Is it better? Is it worse? Well, again, totally up to you. Once again, this is the Shure SM7B with plugins turned on. All right, so we are back to using the Shure MV7 over USB, and I'm only using the built-in DSP effects right now. After that test, do you think one microphone sounded better than the other? That's going to be up to you. Once we started using plugins and could get probably a pretty similar sound overall, do you think it's worth springing for the SM7DB, or will you stick with the MV7? Totally up to you. There's also a MV7 Plus model, by the way, so I'll have a link to that one in the description below as well. But whichever mic you want to choose, whichever mic you end up going with, I'll have a link for the SM7DB and the MV7 and the MV7 Plus in the description below. All right, so once again, this is the Shure MV7 hybrid microphone with both USB and XLR connections. It's also, of course, for those who don't know, it's a dynamic microphone. So that's going to make it better for noisier environments, especially things like gaming or noisier rooms, because it's going to reject more sound than something like a condenser. All right. So once again, the Shure MV7, go check it out.
Give me those microphone blues. A Shure SM7B, that's the one to choose. It's got the one, it's got the tone, singing my heart